live, I think.
Oh,
Oh, I don't like the fact that people can see my lampshade.
it's been a bit washed out.
Oh, well, I hope you're not. I'm wearing a new jumper and everything. I just want to check that we're live, and if you can see us, let us know in the comments down below. It's telling me that I'm live, but I just want to double check.
Am I alive?
You are alive. You've been alive all day. People can see us. Good. So, hello everyone. It's me, Simon, and I'm back with my pandemic curls and my mother.
I thought you were going to say you're back with your pandemic mother.
No, I'm back with my curls and my pandemic mother.
I'm like a disease.
No, she's not. But we're going to have a chat and answer a lot. You've sent in a lot of questions for us. Now, Mum has no idea. Oh, that's me playing my own video. But we're going to answer some questions. But one thing that's amazing, and I promise it won't turn into Eurovision, but we've already seen where some of you are from.
Oh.
So, like, keep letting us know.
I thought you were going to ask me to sing.
No, goodness, no. We were at a pub earlier, and there was a jazz singer going on, and Mum was quite tempted, I think, to rob the mic and go wild with it, because she can sing, me Mum. She's in a band. So it's true.
It is.
Right, so I'm going to find the questions. But first of all, also what we should say is, how are you? How are things on your Saturday for most of you? We've got Philadelphia, Finland, Pittsburgh, Arkansas. Somebody's in Spain waiting to fly back to the UK, Northern Ireland, Yorkshire. Wow. I like that one. Yorkshire. Let me find the questions that we've got. How are you doing, Mum?
I'm doing really well. Of course I am. I'm on holiday. I'm on holiday in Costa del Birkenhead.
We don't like to live in Birkenhead.
Sorry.
I've spoken to you about this before. So I have saved lots of questions. Now, if we don't answer your question, it's possibly because I've missed it, or it might be because it was a little bit too personal. Not in a weird way. Don't. They weren't asking for our PIN numbers or anything. But so the first question, I think this comes a few times, is from Amelia Reeds, and she said, I have a desert island disc question for you both. Even though she thinks that she'll know my answer already, but which book would you take on a desert island with you if you were only allowed one?
I have to really think about these kind of questions because they're so sort of...
I know the answer already.
Important. Yeah, I'm sure you do. My answer would be different on different days as well. I'm terrible like that. It really does depend on my mood. You might not like this answer.
This is the entire works of Barbara Cartland.
No. No. I think my gut would be to take the Aeneid.
Why would I be cross about that?
Well, I don't know, because it's sort of obvious, isn't it? But I just love I love classical texts, and I love the fact that with the Aeneid, every time I read it, I notice lots of new things, and I have different interpretations, or Ovid's Metamorphoses as well.
What about, would you be tempted to say, not, which is it that's just been translated, the Odyssey or the Iliad, by the first woman to translate it?
The Odyssey.
Would you be tempted to take the Iliad and then be the first woman to translate that?
Oh, I suppose yeah, maybe. It would certainly keep me really busy. I'd find that very hard because my Greek's very rusty.
Well, Gail Hewitt said that she'd take Rebecca, which I think is what a lot of people would think I would take, but is not the case.
Oh.
I would take the complete works of Sherlock Holmes. Because I can never tire them. I can read them again and again, and I still forget most of the endings.
Yeah.
And I would just love that. And also, we were talking about him yesterday. My great uncle Derek, so my mum's uncle, he used to memorise Sherlock Holmes short stories when we went on walking holidays, and would tell me 2 a day on a 10-mile walk.
He did.
And it was just, yeah.
He was a real character, and he used to love walking holidays, and he didn't like to carry too much weight with him. And this is a bit sacrilegious. Some of you might be offended by this, but he used to take all his really, really old underwear and old clothes and bin them as he went. So his rucksack would get lighter the further he walked. But he would also buy really tattered old copies of books from charity shops that he read on the way, and he would actually tear the pages out as he went.
He would. But to make it sound better, on one particular walk, he took a real tumble, but he was so determined that he would carry on reading me stories that when we got back, he went to the hospital and he'd broken his wrist. But he'd been determined that he would tell me stories as he carried on. And I just have to say, whoever it was who I've just seen saying, "Well done, Simon, on your jumper action. Thank you, it's new." Or especially because I forgot to say that one of the reasons we're doing this is because I've hit 20,000 subscribers, which is
amazing, isn't it?
I can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around it. I can sort of, anyone who I've met who watches my channel, I imagine them a little bit behind the screen when I'm recording, but I can't imagine that. Anyway, so there's that. Susanna, thank you for your question, Amelia Reeds. Susanna C, and by the way, there will be some time as we go on for your questions, but if I miss them, you might have to type them again. I'm really sorry. Susanna C would like to know, which 5 authors, living or dead, would you invite to a dinner party?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. So
brilliant question,
yeah,
Susanna.
Not that the other one wasn't.
Don't lose me subscribers, mother.
It is something that that I kind of, that's the sort of thing that I kind of fantasize about. I don't know, it's weird.
She doesn't get out much.
No, I don't. So I would definitely like to meet Anne Tyler. I absolutely love her. Did we say living or dead?
Living or dead.
Living or dead. Oh my goodness. So yeah, Anne Tyler would hopefully be there if she would be pleased to come.
She has no choice. She's got to be there. That's the way it works.
I'd really like to meet Louisa May Alcott, who wrote Little Women. So I'd invite her to the dinner table, because that's just such a, for a Victorian woman to produce a text like that, it's quite, and those some of the women in that story are so, or trying to be, really independent. So I think, and I'm sure it had a huge influence on me when I was younger, in terms of my love of reading and that whole idea of the garret and going up there and just, writing things and reading things and putting on plays. And so I think it really fired my imagination as a child, and I'd love to know what she was like and know more about her. Who else would I have? That was 2 more. Wasn't it? But 3 more.
And we're already on 7 minutes.
Oh gosh, sorry. What, just about that question?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
No, 7 minutes in general. I'm just aware, I think we've got about 50 questions to get through, possibly more.
Oh, crikey.
And then we've got to skip over to these lovely
This
people.
is why I'm not very good at this kind of thing, because I'm not very good at thinking quickly. I'm a muller.
Neither am I, though. I waffle, I go on tangents. I can't do a video under 15 minutes. Yeah. Really, I find it really, really hard. Not because I like the sound of my own voice, just because I kind of can't do succinct.
Yeah.
3 more, sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Who else would I invite? I'd invite Catullus from the classical world, because I think he would have been really entertaining, and he might well give us a run for our money. I could imagine there might be quite a bit of hot discussion around that table. I don't know what he'd think of the modern woman at all. And he could be very rude and very
Would you
cheeky.
Have anyone whose plays or short stories we've lost, so that they could retell you them?
Well, possibly. I mean, there are lots and lots of missing ancient Greek tragedies, but then let's not make it too much of a classical feast. Who else?
Got 1 out of 5.
So I've got, that's 3. So mix it up with a bit of Catullus.
I'm holding my fingers because I don't want to be giving you the B's.
No, don't give me the B's. That would be a bit hurtful and a bit rude.
It's a bit too early in the video for that to happen.
Have I behaved myself so far then? Oh, good. Who else would I invite? Oh my goodness. Well, you know what I'm going to say next. I'd have to invite Caris.
Yeah, Caris Davis.
Because
you have had coffee with her.
I know.
But scone.
She's just, I just love the way she writes.
If you don't know, tomorrow on Instagram Live on Instagram we'll be going live with Caris Davis at 7 p.m. BST, and me and Mum are both huge fans, and I got Mum to meet Caris, and it was really funny because I just kind of felt like I didn't need to be there. They were just having a lovely chat. So tomorrow I'll just probably slowly disappear off the screen like this.
And bizarrely, the other person I would really, really love to have dinner with is Benjamin Zephaniah. Because I just find him really charismatic, and I love the fact that he is political without being hectoring, and I love his sense of humour. He really makes me laugh. He's just written his own version of the "I Have a Dream" speech.
Oh, really?
And it's fab. One of the lines is about what is it? Something about when all black people will play golf, which I just thought was, it's just part of the stream of there were lots and lots of things in there, but I just love his sort of his take on things.
So that's your 5. So mine would
5.
be Daphne du Maurier. Dig her up. Let's have her around for dinner. I think she'd be quite prickly, which would be interesting. Bernadine Evaristo, no question, just because I love Bernadine. I'm doing a live with her on Instagram in 2 weeks, I think. Who else would I have? Possibly Margaret Atwood. I think she'd be good for a natter with. And I'm just going through. Arthur Conan Doyle, because I just want to find out.
Very strange, man.
We could have a séance.
Very strange.
It would be an amazing.
Well, don't
party.
invite him then. Have a séance and
well, no,
then he can join you that way.
Can't come either. Well, then I can basically have everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
And then who else would I have? I would love to have Toni Morrison. Actually,
yes,
I think she would have some really good, and I think that would be a lovely gang. Now, someone's asked what would be on the menu. Now we need to do this quick fire because we've still got another 40 odd. So mine would be prawn cocktail, followed by. Oh, now that's a good question. Probably a really good spag bowl. Basically, I'm such a child of the 80s. Followed by a lemon meringue pie.
Oh, you see, I love lemon meringue pie.
Or
that's one of my favourite puddings.
Scott Angel Delight.
Ooh, that's horrible.
Can you imagine
it's like eating perfume. Don't go there.
Right, this is going to get bad. Carry on, Mum. So, what would you have? What would your 3 courses be?
I would have, as a starter, I would have tomato mozzarella. What do they call that? Thingy salad. It's got a name, hasn't it? Thingy salad. I'd have thingy salad. Tomato, mozzarella and basil. Preferably homegrown tomatoes, that is, not the mozzarella. And I would have, I love chicken Kiev, and I can never be bothered to make it.
Chris gets, whenever Chris is working late, not every time, because obviously that happens a couple of times a week sometimes, but I will have chicken Kiev and dough from mashed potatoes.
Either that or a vegetable biryani, but that doesn't really go with the mozzarella thing.
Maybe I'd take them all to Mowgli, actually, my favourite restaurant. And what do you have to put in?
Well, good question, because I love lemon meringue pie or lemon tart. Lemony puddings are the best, or a lemon cheesecake.
Oh, well, there's your answer. It's a lemon trio. That's
and
what
definitely
it'd be.
Some truffles, chocolates at the end.
Afterwards with the coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there would have been wine probably during the whole thing. So not for me anyway.
Before, during, and after.
Kieran of KD Books. My question for the 2 savages is: what are you interested in that most people haven't heard of? I don't think I've got any hobbies that nobody would have heard of, or anything that I'm interested that nobody would have heard of.
Does she mean that nobody?
Kieran's a man.
Sorry.
I did a buddy read of Summer by Ali Smith with him, and whenever we did voicemail messages, I could hear Old MacDonald in the background. It was a treat. His eldest daughter was playing it. It was very sweet.
So sweet. I've forgotten the question now. Was it things that says, obscure hobbies, or was it things that people wouldn't know that we do?
No, it just says, what are you interested in that most people haven't heard of? It's a very loose question. I'm just going to catch up with some of the statements. Cats, read by Cat. Her husband loves Angel Delight. He's a wise man.
It's a good way of getting rid of extra milk.
Tom Reed thinks it's a compressor. Tom Reed things. My mother is waiting to hear you sing "The Hills Are Alive." Her name to the tune of "The Hills Are Alive" when you're in her county this week. She is ready for it. So
I'll be listening. Wherever she'll be listening.
Yeah. Jenny loves books. Compressed salad is one of her mum's favourites too. And people are also absolutely loving cheesecake. And also Emma Wilden Tamburello says, that's a great name. Love you both loads, and this video is just what I need after today, and we'll be looking out for some of these books. Right, so next question, because I can't answer that question, Kieran. I think you've given us a too difficult question. It was too vague and we don't know.
Hard.
We're not interesting enough. It's simply that simple.
I can crochet. I enjoy crocheting.
I don't.
My eyesight's not great, so I don't do it as much as I used to, but I enjoy a bit of crochet.
I don't think I've got any hobbies.
Mainly because I'm not very patient and it grows really quickly. Never learnt to knit.
My only hobby is mentally decorating other people's houses.
And your own, and then Chris does it.
All right, let's move on swiftly. So, Fleur Deli Reads says, for your mum, I'd love to know about her career as a classicist. What sparked that interest for her?
Lots of things, actually. Bizarrely, one of them was reading Jude the Obscure, because I loved Thomas Hardy when I was in my early teens, and Jude the Obscure, it kind of educates himself, and he learns ancient Greek, and that really piqued my interest. I always loved mythology, found that fascinating. I think when I was 15, I was really lucky because my dad did something which was very unusual at the time. We weren't a very well-off family. There were 4 children, and my dad hired a motorhome for a month and took us out of school, and we drove all the way down to the Bay of Naples from Derbyshire.
We have Melanie Holmes said she was from the Peak District in Derbyshire.
Hello, Melanie. So, you know, I think seeing all those classical remains and things, and I fell in love with Italy. So, yeah, I think it was a huge combination of things. Also slightly political, because it annoyed me that it tended to be more privileged, more wealthy people who studied the subject, and I didn't quite think that was right either. So, yeah, lots of reasons.
And which book would you choose that you think best represented and shaped you?
Ooh.
I'm glad I didn't get this question.
Yeah, that's a really hard... In terms of shaping me, might be Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, good Lord.
I was a very, very good child. Like, I always wanted to be good.
Also, there's a famous saying in our family that if Mum can't remember something, we'll all just say, because you had your face in a book.
Yeah, my siblings like to repeat that very often. So I think because Anne of Green Gables was a bit of a minx, she got quite a naughty streak in her. I think I sort of wanted to be a bit more like that. I was very aware that I just did whatever everybody told me, to the point when my friend and my sister told me to jump off a 9-foot wall, I did, and ended up spraining my ankle. It's not a way to live. So I think I sort of wanted to be more like her, and perhaps I've got a bit more like her as I've got older.
I'm not commenting on that. Lauren in the Books just said, and also I should say, after we finish this live, make sure that you spend the rest of the evening doing Lauren in the Books amazing cozy reading night, because it's lovely. Oh, yeah. You met Lauren.
Yeah.
And Lauren says, hey babes, lovely jumper situation. Going, thank you, Lauren. I'm glad you appreciate it. I've not worn this jumper before. I bought it especially. These go a bit low.
I'm feeling really understated by comparison.
Well, you're in a hoodie and everything. Mum's been quite street. The question for me was about my career, but it was, would I do a dedicated video on how I got where I got? I will, but I think we could both say this. I don't think at any point before, probably maybe 10, 15 years ago, I would have thought that I had the job I had.
No, and I think it's a very long story, because and an interesting story, actually.
It goes here, there, and everywhere, around the country, everything. So that's all to come. Look forward to that one. So next we have from Tanya de Armas. She would like to know. She knows that you're a classicist, but what does that mean as far as your curriculum? And if you hand out a reading list to your class, what would it be?
Right, so, well, that's an interesting question, because I am a classicist, but I'm not currently teaching classics, although I will be again in September, next week, hopefully. So what was the question about the curriculum?
What does the curriculum entail, and like what books would you give? Maybe if you could say 3 books you give on a reading list.
So at the moment, the course that I'm about to teach, it involves an introduction to Homer, so you'd read the Iliad. Or the Odyssey. It involves, what else are we doing? We're reading some Greek tragedies. I'd read the Bacchae, I absolutely love that, or Oedipus, which, even though most people know how that story pans out, it's amazing. It's so compelling, because even though you know the story, and the ancient Greeks would have done as well, you're still on the edge of your seat because you can't believe what's happening. It's really clever. It's so well put together. I've just been reading some Greek philosophy, some Plato, in preparation for the course, which I think is really, it stretches me. I have to really concentrate and study and so I think that's really good for your brain to kind of.
You've been getting so excited though.
I have. I am really, really excited.
Been geeking out as much as she can with
Yeah.
3 people in the house who aren't classicists. But she's been trying her best. I'm going to check on a few things what people said. Jim says, have you read Mary Beard? Mum definitely has. There was also an incident where Mum came to Cheltenham with me and she left early, and the next morning I had breakfast next to Mary Beard. She was furious.
Mum, guess who I'm having breakfast with?
Let's say,
Thank you, Simon.
Sarah Richards asked, and I know she's here, so hello, Sarah. She says, question for you and your mum, what book have you most disagreed with? Any shouting? Never any shouting.
No, never shouting.
I was a bit disappointed that you didn't love the Song of Achilles, but we'll be talking about that in a video that we're filming tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't, but I think that, again, there were really there are strong reasons for that, which isn't to do with Madeline Miller's writing, because I really loved Circe. We didn't agree about Zadie Smith, did we?
No.
I loved On Beauty, and you weren't as keen, were you? I thought it was
She's
brilliant.
just not for me, and I've got a feeling you're going to love Marilyn Robinson, and I don't.
I do love Marilyn
there we
Robinson,
go. So there's going to be that one.
Away,
so these arguments are to come.
Yeah.
Because we'll be fun. But I don't think there's ever been a book. I mean, there is one. You hate The Woman in Black.
I do.
And I love The Woman in Black.
Hate it. With a passion. I think if ever anything was overwritten, that's it. And I love Lord of the Rings. I don't think you're a big fan, are you?
I've never read it.
Yeah.
Lauren actually just asked, do you love Rebecca as much as Simon does?
I do love it.
Probably not
I do
to
love
my
it,
level.
but not with that amount of passion.
Have you seen the pictures of what's she called? Playing Mrs. Danvers, Christian Scott Thomas.
No, but I bet she'd be amazing.
It's amazing. It's very haunting.
Amazing.
And actually, I've demanded that Lauren and Mercedes and I sort of watch it online together at the same time, so that we can do something. So I think that'd be really, really lovely. So yes, no, Mum's just said phew. Gail, thank you. The Woman in Black is fab. Thank you very much. So anyway, we've never shouted about it. I think it's that thing where I find what you don't like, because I think overall we have a similar-ish taste, but it's not exactly similar.
No, and that's what makes it interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's always like there's this funny thing where sometimes people say, well, I didn't like that book you liked. I'm like, good, let's talk about it.
And there are certain books that I say, oh, I really want you to read this, and you go, meh.
Yeah.
Won't even try.
There's one common thing that happens as well. My mum will read a book I've given her and go, did you enjoy this? I was like, no, I didn't read it, so I'll give it to you. So that happens sometimes. Tom reads things. I did tell him that I would ghost him and cancel him and not ask this question, but I'm gonna give in. Sorry, Tom. Tom would like to know, and I should just mention, me and Tom are going to be hosting Autumn Book Hibernation together in November.
That's nice.
So that's going to be lovely. But it's a question for you, Mum, as he calls you, Dame Louise of Savage. What non-fiction book would you recommend as an intro to classical civilizations?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll tell you what I'd recommend.
There's a recent one that you loved. I gave you.
There is, but I wouldn't. There's a beautiful book by Peter Connolly, he's called, and it's something like Life in Ancient Cities. Unfortunately, it's really expensive now, but he was an engineer, this guy, and he was commissioned to illustrate a book on Pompeii years ago, and it's the most amazing thing. So if you like kind of maps and plans, and so there'll be a whole page on, I don't know, the Parthenon, and it'll be cross sections and the whole building, and then what happened inside it. And I just think it's an absolutely fabulous book. It's big as well. It's a great big sort of, yeah, it's beautiful. It's published by somebody like Dorling Kindersley. It's got that glossy, lovely feel to it. So that would be my first port of call if I was. And
Jean's just written a book that Mum has read. That was one that I was mentioning.
That's beautiful, yeah. I wasn't thinking about mythology. I was thinking more about the classical world.
If you want to get into mythology, Jean Menzies' book is beautiful and amazing, and you know that. Well, me and Mum both really, really, really love Jean. And also one to look out for is Natalie Haynes' Pandora's Jar is going to be, I think, quite amazing. I can't wait to read that. I've had to hide it because I was worried she would steal it. So those are the recommendations. So next up we have This is a question for me. I know that you've met quite a few authors, but have you ever had any awkward encounters with any of them? You don't have to say their names. Well, I had a very famous Twitter spat with one author who is incredibly popular, which I actually had to have my phone taken out of my hands because I was so indignant that they were accusing reviewers of not being, because reviewers are generally positive, therefore not disliking anything, and it just annoyed me. But then I also find that if I follow somebody and all they do is like a book, every book, I'm like, it doesn't quite ring true, because you don't like every book you read. And actually sometimes what you don't like is one of the most interesting things to go. So that was one. And then the other one that I can mention possibly is I once went to an event and it was like a friend date between me and Evie Wilde. And we went to a showcase for a certain publisher and we got to meet a very famous female author who has also has a very famous female author sister. Well, that would make sense. And he got introduced as a debut novelist. This author had never heard of that book. And I got introduced as a blogger. I don't think this digital thing will take on. I'll leave that information in your possession to see who I might have meant. But it is tricky because I think if I ever hear about awkward behaviour of an author or anything like that, it's tricky because I can't separate the book and the works. And we talked about that when we talked about Lionel Shriver. I just think there's issues there. But yeah, so right, next up, you'll probably be good at this one, Mum, actually. Stacey Darlington, could you recommend a historical novel in a unique setting?
Oh, I don't know about a unique setting.
I could do one that's in a unique telling. So The Western Wind by Samantha Harvey tells a murder mystery in medieval Britain backwards. Yeah. Amazing.
See, I love English Passengers.
I've not read that.
What's it called?
Matthew Neal.
Yeah. And
Look at that.
And I
it's like book encyclopedia in our brains. Matthew Neal.
I thought that was a wonderful story, and it's about, I'm trying to remember now, it's Australia, it is Australia, isn't it? Yeah, they're on a boat and it's all about the Aboriginal colonisation, and I thought that was fabulous.
I love Australia and I'd like to read more about like the indigenous.
Australia or New Zealand? I'm pretty sure it was Australia. I thought that was wonderful, and I really had never read anything like that before.
I don't like book sets on boats, so maybe that's an unusual setting for
me.
No,
you've got to think about that.
No, I just don't like it.
Such a shame.
I don't know where it's from. Although I did read a book set on a submarine by Neville Shute that I thought was amazing. It's at the end of the world, and they're just on this submarine trying to get to Australia. It's beautiful, beautiful book. Can't remember what it's called. Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say then? In terms of, I'm trying to think of any way that I've read that's like really unusual. So for me, like Victoria Hislop's The Island, which is set, and that's got a sequel coming this autumn, which I'm really intrigued by. Because at first when I started reading, I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to be into this, and then I just got completely. Where's that set?
It's Lampedusa.
Yeah, so that's on a colony for lepers. That's a really unusual.
Crete,
that's quite an unusual setting.
Yeah, it is.
But also one of those things that I've really realised recently, I need to read more women in translation full stop. But I think in doing that, when I find out loads of pockets of history that I just didn't know about. So then there are also books that aren't translated. So I'm just trying to look. I think it's The Shadow King that I've got on my shelves, which is about the history of Mussolini invading Ethiopia. Didn't know anything about that, so I'm really looking forward to reading that one. So yeah, that's good. Bookish Shenanigans says, hello lovely bookish people. Hello to you.
Hello.
Sue's Prime, you're right, On the Beach by Neville Shute. That's
I
the
nearly
one.
said that, but I thought
that was Sue's brain doing
very
that.
Good. Very
good.
Well done, Sue.
Thank you. We enjoy that. But that's a tricky question.
It is. It's then a
That's
very good
almost
question.
a whole video in itself.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Mum has always told me since I was very little that there's no such thing as a bad question. You always told me that. Always.
It's the way you learn.
So next, Chocky Cake 1, great name, would like to know, she always feels guilty if she doesn't finish a book. Do you? Nah, not anymore.
I used to. I used to have to finish a book. Like it was almost a sort of obsessive ADHD type thing that I couldn't, something terrible would happen if I didn't finish the book. And I think I've only weaned myself off that in the last 20 years.
Do you know what's stopped it for me?
What?
So I'm going to say the name Bongi. And for those of you who don't know, Bongi was
My
Mum's dad.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't say, because I was born with a tongue tie, I couldn't say grandpa. So basically I said Bumpa, which became Bongi. Anyway, sadly, Bong died when he was relatively young, really, wasn't he?
69.
And when he was dying, we got to spend time with him, which was kind of a horrific thing, but also kind of quite a privilege.
Yeah.
Because you get to have conversations you wouldn't have. And one day I sat down with him and I was like, tell me, like, have you got any regrets? And he thought about it for ages. He was like, finishing books I just didn't really like. And I was like, right, I am never finishing a book that I don't really like again. And I think that was it's a good life skill, but to have that as your only regret was pretty incredible.
A life well lived, I think.
I don't feel guilty at all. So Andrew Russell would like to know, what do you most disagree on with regards to liking or disliking books? Ooh, that I think will come from maybe all the different women's prize book winners that we read, and where we disagree on some.
But also, I think it's to do with reading things at a different stage in your life as well. I mean, there is obviously quite a significant age difference between
no, a lot of people would say not, because everyone says you look like my sister.
Oh yeah, but that was
younger sister as well.
Well, that's very kind, but
which I find
rude. But I think maybe one of the reasons that some of the books I really like, for example, Home, I don't know, might be more to do with the age that I'm reading at as opposed to the age that you're reading at.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I did say with Zadie Smith, maybe I'd read her at the wrong time, and actually, it's interesting.
Although she's a writer who's probably nearer to your age than mine.
Yeah, but she's not my cup of tea, I think. I don't know. But no, I don't think there's anything we really disagree on, because I think we both like to read varied stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got little things that bother me, like I really find it difficult when people put speech in italics rather than using quotes, or actually don't use any quote marks at all. That bothers me. But there's just little, I don't know. We've never really had that conversation where it's like, what do you particularly like, or what do you particularly dislike?
No, because we just end up talking about what we're reading, full stop, and it doesn't matter. Actually, like you say, it's more interesting when we disagree, really.
Yeah, but it won't be over particular, like, plot style or anything. It could just be something. But also, there's that thing where I think you begin to assume somebody will like something. So I'll assume, like, oh, if it's a classic myth retelling, Mum will like it, and that isn't necessarily true.
No,
so
of course not,
I think that's quite interesting. I've just realised there's 205 people watching us, and it's made me scared. So.
That's the I feel. I'm not used to this kind of thing.
So, Read Along with Sue Ward has asked, if your mum wanted a book in subject matter that was dear to her heart, what would it be?
Ooh, well, I love gardens, so maybe something to do with plants or setting, like The Secret Garden. Something. I mean, that's a beautiful book, isn't it?
No, I've not read it.
Oh, have you seen the film? The film's wonderful.
I think you made me watch it when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. That had a big impact on me when I was a child. So maybe a sort of adult or modern retelling of that story.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
If you could have an author, that Sue also, Read Along with Sue also said, who would you like to write that book? If you could choose someone to write a book that would be dear to your heart.
Oh, again, that's Ian Kim.
Ian Kim Braithwaite, it would be. But I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, she's. I love the way she writes.
And Sarah's asked me about 6 questions, but they're all about pet hates in books, pet hates with publishers and stuff. I'm going to make a video on my pet peeves in due course, so that's going to come. So I won't answer that now, but I will. I'll just tease you with that one. I'm just checking. Actually, I keep forgetting people are here. Read by Kat says she dislikes the italics too. Have we ever read Lily King? I haven't. I've got Writers and Lovers on my shelves, but I've not read it. I also know that I think it's Euphoria. My friend Kerry really, really loved that one. So we've got more questions coming, but don't forget, we will hand over to questions in a bit. So if we miss them, which we probably have because we're looking at these ones, then you can ask them in a bit. Sorry. Next up, Novelle Novels has asked, if you could pick an era in time to go back and visit, which one would it be? I think I can guess with you which one it might be, Mum.
There are so many, though, aren't there?
No, but this is just one.
Well, I would go back to 5th century Athens. I would. And I'd wander the Agora and I'd visit all the temples, and I'd go and, I'd love to meet some of the players. Well, I'd just love to go and watch a Greek tragedy or probably a comedy, or just a whole afternoon of Greek
Should just be
theatre
at the
actually
amphitheatre the whole
I'd
time.
like to go to the city diners here and yeah, just sit and watch plays by Sophocles and Euripides and Aeschylus as they were originally staged. Because were there women there? Weren't there women there?
Who can say?
And yeah, what exactly were the costumes like, and the masks and all the special effects? Yeah, no, that's what I would like to do.
Which do you think I would head to? I think mine's quite obvious.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Victorian era.
Oh, okay,
without
fair
question,
enough,
I would
because of Conan
happily.
Doyle, yeah.
Well, I think as well, I just find that whole period of history really interesting. It's where the world kind of, that sensational element.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I loved most when I used to be a tour guide at Highgate Cemetery was kind of, you felt like you were right back in that time, because obviously it was set up then, and I don't know, there was a grandeur to almost everything people did, and yet it was all the kind of.
Well, a very small proportion of the population did.
No, but even like commoners' funerals would be quite grand, and
if they could afford to, yeah.
But also, I think there's also the whole thing of, it was a time of probably some of the most sort of salacious shenanigans. I'd quite like to peek around some curtains. Anyway, moving on. So.
Yeah.
It's left my mother speechless.
I don't think you should have confessed to that.
Off to an opium den right now. Oh, who doesn't like looking through people's windows when they walk past houses? Come on, everyone does. So, mainly, I told you, when I walk past one, that's one of my interesting habits, is that I usually redecorate their houses when I look through. Anyway, let's all move on before I get arrested. So, Rena Brown would like to know, this is going to make you laugh. How does your mum feel about becoming a celebrity?
A celebrity?
She's turning into such a diva. She asked where her blue Smarties were earlier, and her puppies. She was asking for all of the extras.
But I just love talking about books.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure, and I love being with you. So
we have a right laugh doing it.
Yeah.
And somebody asked, how do I come up with my decor ideas? They always seem so wild, but turn out beautiful. You just got to chance it and risk it. But I will say, my love of bright colours comes from somebody here. So we've just done our spare room orange, which is apparently the same orange that Mum used to have our bathroom.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
You used to have like a lime green dining room.
That was horrible though. That made you feel a bit bilious.
You've got a really lovely sort of turquoisey teal in your house, haven't you? So bright colours all come from them. But I think it's about being bold, and also if you're going to do it, just do it. Because what you can't do is have like several rooms in the house that are grey, and then suddenly there's a bright.
Comes from Dad as well. Bongi.
Yeah.
Bongi, blame him for a lot of things.
But also it's amazing because I've noticed, like, what I love is if I can see through, it sounds really odd, but I do this quite a lot. I'll stand in certain points where I can see through multiple doors, and you can see all the different colours working together, and it's just really satisfying. But the other big thing, I was talking to you about this earlier, is it's so good for your mental health. It like keeps you really
stimulates
chirpy.
You and chills you as well.
Yeah, like the other day when we'd done the dining room, I had breakfast in there, and I thought I can never be miserable in the mornings again.
You will be.
Thank you, Mum. That's lovely of you. So, right, I'm finding the next one. So, Graham Sillars reads books, who I know is watching this. I've seen him comment a few times. And he says, where's the question? I've lost it. His question is, have you ever considered writing a book together? If you could write a book, what genre would it be? We've never considered writing a book together.
I think it would be humour.
Potentially. I wouldn't. I'm not.
Humour is really difficult. I think it's the hardest genre to write, personally.
I don't find I laugh at a lot of funny books.
No, okay. Or something that would be a bit waspish, maybe then.
Snarky. I like a bit of snark.
You're good at snark.
I can imagine it. I can imagine the book set in some historical era where there was, I don't know. I can imagine there being some quite amateur sleuthing going on, or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. There's certain bits where, like, I think I'd love to find a pocket of history that hasn't really been written about, and then go off and find out. Yeah, there will.
There will be lots.
Or like just a, I don't know, fascinating story, like, you know, Hannah Donahue. I don't know if some of you read some of her short story collections.
They're so
but she'll find like a newspaper cutting,
yeah,
and she'll create a whole story out of it. And I love that kind of thing. And you said you'd like to write short stories.
Yeah, well, I do dabble a little bit, but nothing. Yeah, just for my own
I keep saying she should
go
to town with it. She's got a son who works in the industry. But
that's called nepotism.
Or just favours. That's what I would say. Donny Delper Stedman says, his question for us both is, what was the first book that you fell in love with?
Well, this is really on PC, but you have to bear in mind that I'm old, and I was about 4 at the time. It was when I started school, and there was this book and I feel embarrassed talking about it, but it's what happened, and you've asked the question. So it was a book called Little Black Sambo, which was a little children's storybook, a bit like if you've seen the Beatrix Potter books. Some of you will be able to relate to that sort of size, with very glossy paper, high gloss paper, and beautiful colour illustrations. And in that book there was a picture of a tiger, and I remember it so well, and I used to sit in the corner for hours just looking at these beautiful pictures, because they were so, growing up in a tiny little Victorian primary school in the middle of Derbyshire, it was my first exposure to anything really exotic and different. And so it's, as I say, I'm being very honest about it. It was the product of colonialism, but those pictures were like nothing I'd ever seen before.
So it must have really resonated at the time.
Yeah. It was the whole thing of the tiger and the beautiful pictures and the.
Can you remember, like, as an adult? Because I think there's a difference between books that you fall in love with as a child. So, like, mine would be, I think I was pretty obsessed with Megan Mogg and Elmer, and then The Worst Witch. There's a witchy thing generally in the stuff that I like. Yeah. But as an adult, for me, I mean, lots of you will know it was Rebecca, but there's one before that I don't often talk about, and I should. And the first book that Mum gave me that was a adult book, but not like adult book, but like although, do you remember that time I bought that book in a charity shop because I thought it was about myths and legends, and then it turned out it was sort of a bit porny.
Very rude.
And took it away very quickly. But the book that Mum gave me was Perfume by Patrick Suskind, and I absolutely love that. And you got that spot on, because that's very much my
very clever book.
But Rebecca for me reignited something that had gone. But as a kid, I think, and also Elmer. I was just, I mean, like, I think I'm probably the human form of Elmer now. Right,
I loved,
don't disagree that much.
I was really interested in history as a child. So rude.
No, me. So that's what you were saying about it.
No, I was thinking about Jean Plaidy. I used to love, her books, and Anya Seton, books that were historical fiction. And then I started reading things like, the classics, Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, and those books were the ones that really turned me on to literature, actually.
Yeah. Jacqueline McMinnon, I said that wrong, sorry, Jacqueline. Are there any other members of the family who are big readers? My gran was a huge reader.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And if she'd been alive when I was doing YouTube, she would have been, I mean, they would have been fighting for screen time. It would have been quite tricky.
No, I wouldn't have been involved. I wouldn't have got a look in, it's fine.
But we were talking about that yesterday, actually. And also, I think we were saying we think you would have loved her. She was very direct. She wouldn't have held back on what she thought about
she would
books.
Not very diplomatic.
But and then not really. I mean, everyone in our family likes to read ish, but not. I don't think on the level that we do.
Not addictively. No. I think we're definitely book addicts, aren't we?
My uncle Derek did.
Yes,
who we mentioned, he was huge. Although it's quite funny, we were talking about this yesterday, and he might have had quite a few issues. We were saying about how much I like women's fiction. He never read a book by a woman. And he accidentally read Middlemarch because George Eliot was called George Eliot. So he was a one. Right, so where's the next question? I'm trying to find the question. My question for you and Louise is, what author would you bring back from the past to write a book about the present? That's a great question.
That is a brilliant question.
Who would I bring back? They said they would bring back Jane Austen.
See, I would love Anthony Trollope or Thackeray to write about the current political situation. I think they would be, they're sort of satirical, not gently satirical in Thackeray's case. Their sort of satirical look at what's happening in this country right now, and also, in America, various other parts of the world. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah, I would like to bring back Oscar Wilde. I think he would be incredible on Twitter. I think he would absolutely roast
It was
people,
made
and I
for him,
think it
really,
would just
wasn't
be
it?
amazing. Oh, Jenny Emma just spotted said that she heard Gran on the Readers podcast, and she
Oh,
introduced her
did
to Flip
she?
Kerr, because I did do a podcast of the Readers, which
Oh.
is an old podcast I used to do a few years ago, and I had a chat with my gran, my mum, and my little sister. So it was like 3 generations of Readers. It was really, really lovely. Amelia Reads would like to bring back Gustav Flaubert.
Yeah, and somebody else has mentioned George Orwell as well.
So you can read the comments.
I can now. My eyes have kind of tuned in.
So yeah, that would be. Now I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions. That one, it's hard because some of them are questions. I asked people to ask questions, but also suggestions what they wanted to see going forward.
Wow.
So we've answered about Rebecca Presswich wanted to know our favourite childhood book. We talked about that, and if we could be transported into a book and spend a day living the life of the characters, which would it be? I would be Mrs. Danvers.
Yeah, where would I go? Oh my goodness. I think I would love to walk around Rochester's house in Jane Eyre before and after the fire.
Oh.
Well, I suppose
we both chose characters that had something to do with fire. No spoilers.
No, that's weird, isn't
it? That's really weird.
Yeah,
anyway,
that is weird. I'd love to go into what was that wonderful Sarah Waters, Fingersmith.
I've not read that yet.
The places in that really stuck in my head, and I'd love to wander around those.
Every Christmas I say I'm going to read it, and I haven't yet. So this Christmas I will try. KS Thompson says, hello from Canada. Question for you and your mum. Have either of you read anything by Anne Cleeves? I have not.
I haven't. Oh, I think I've read a short story by her really recently. A short story, but it hasn't stayed in my head, sadly.
I would like to read it because she's from Newcastle or around there.
Oh, yeah.
So I think she'd have, and because we lived in Newcastle Royal, I think there would be something in it, and then she chooses those settings. So I think I would like that. Yeah. But no, I haven't yet. And actually, she's a crime author that I've meant to for quite a while. I know that Melanie, who I host my book club with, she's read one recently, and she really, really liked it.
We should do it.
Yeah, we should read Anne Cleeves. We should.
Thank you. Good plan.
Thank you. Then we have Alfred Noble would like to know, Mum, she's not your mum. Does Simon have the same reading taste as you? We've kind of talked about this.
Similar. There's quite a lot of overlap, isn't there?
Yeah.
But equally, there are lots of books that we don't agree on in terms of their power.
Yes.
Is that fair?
I think that's probably fair enough. Sandra Tester would like to know, what is your favourite book / author that you recommended to me? And for you, which favourite book have you got that I recommended to you? So I would say Perfume is definitely one for me, because you gave me that to read, so that you couldn't have influenced me anymore.
I think there are loads and loads that you've...
Margaret Atwood you influenced me with.
Yeah.
Because you always wrote about her.
Yeah. I think you've pushed a lot of things my way that I wouldn't have come across. I'm not sure I would have read Sarah Perry.
Yeah. I've got her new book.
I probably would have picked up on Jessie Burton. I mean, I love her books. That's a really hard question because you pass books on to me all the time. I think actually Caris, I don't think I would have come across Caris Davis if it hadn't been for you. And I think she's amazing. So yeah, there are lots of things that it's really nice, that is. But again, nowadays you're not so good at me pushing books on you.
Well, no,
I get it. But you know, I can be absolutely raving about something, but I think partly it's because you have your not reading all mapped out, but you've got, I think,
I have plans. Yeah. And also, if I'm judging a prize or if I'm got an event coming, I've got to read those certain authors. But also, I think it's that thing of I've got into this weird groove at the moment where I realised I'm now just picking books that I pretty much know I like, and it's quite a nice position to be in. So even if I'm really bad with anyone suggesting a book, I'll be like, but when it happens sometimes, so Elizabeth McNeil recently recommended How Much of These Hills Is Gold, which is up for the Booker, and it was a country and western, and I was like, but I started it. Oh my god, I can't rave about it enough. I thought it was amazing. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking and seeing what other questions. Oh, Jacqueline had just asked that very question, and we've said which books we recommended each other. Judy Brown says she's listening to Fingersmith now, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, right. Let's move on to what's next. Oh, apparently somebody opened their video of mine, and it was a Donald Trump advert coming, so apologies for that, because I don't support that in any way. Jenny Loves Books would like to know, what are your favourite books to teach?
Oh, that's a really good question. What do I love teaching Shakespeare, and I love teaching poetry, and there's a really sort of not perverse reason, but I suppose it is a perverse reason for that, and that is because an awful lot of teenagers in this country, you walk into the room and you say, we're going to look at poetry this year, and there's an almighty groan, and they think they all hate poetry. And so what I really love is turning that on its head, and usually for most kids you can turn that round, and the same with Shakespeare. You can walk in and say, right, we're going to read a Shakespeare play this half term, and there's a groan, but it's not that difficult to get them hooked in, if you're prepared to be daft enough.
Mum's got to wear a visor at work going forward, and she wants to sort of make it her
customise
own. Before I go, I'm going to read this comment because it's just made me laugh. I've seen Ellison Morris says that this channel sucks, but she's still watching it. Trolls make me laugh. I've had quite a bit of trolling on this channel when I started, and I used it as like fodder. Like, as in, like, I don't care, I'm going to carry on and probably do it more. Anyway, JF says, for Louise Savage, very, very serious questions.
Formal,
that's the word I want to use. Who's your favourite author that you think more people should read or should receive more attention? Caris Davis is one.
Yeah, definitely. I know we keep mentioning her, but I'm a massive fan of her. Who should receive more attention? Well, Emma Donoghue to a certain extent, because I know Room was a big hit, but I don't think a lot of her work is as widely read as it should be. Tricky. So difficult. Well, Valerie Martin as well. We were talking about her. So, her stuff seems to have disappeared off the shelves a little bit. Not so easy to get hold of.
Thank you to Serpent's Tail, who very kindly. Mum's now getting sent books from publishers too.
Yes, thank you.
Because we've got her new book to read in due course. Yeah. For me, what bookshop or library would you like to visit anywhere in the world, and why? There's one bookshop that is in South America, which is in a converted theatre. I would absolutely love to go into that. So the stage is bookshelves, the boxes are bookshelves, all the different floors. It's just ridiculous. I have a secret dream that I would love to do a documentary series where I went to all the best libraries around the world. That would be amazing. There's a 24-hour library that I think is open in Japan that I would really like to go to. And like when I was doing some work in my old job around China, they spend on culture per day what we spend in a year.
Good grief.
So their libraries are just
fantastic,
phenomenal.
But equally, I keep nagging you to come and visit my local.
I do.
Big library.
I think it's on my. I keep calling it my library tour next year, but it's actually the project that I'm working at work. Yeah. Yes, I would like to do that, and we will do that.
It's the Hive in Worcester. I'm just giving a shout out for it because it is an amazing library.
I would like to go. However, I have also. Well, I don't know if you've all noticed, there has been a pandemic going on, so I haven't able to go so like. But what I'm really excited about is like over the next 10 months, I'm going to be going to over 50 libraries around the country. That's just going to be amazing.
Just a dream, isn't it?
So I really would like. I'm not going to because sadly, brilliantly, we're funded by Arts Council England, but it means we can't do Wales and we can't do Scotland and Northern Ireland. But I would love to go to Orkney Library. It's another one that I dream of quite regularly. So yeah, that would be that. People would like that documentary. I might, as I go around libraries, I would quite like to do some vlogs of me going around the library. So hopefully you'll see that in due course. I'm just checking I haven't missed anyone. No, I haven't. So Navi Sahota would like to know, what contemporary book do you think will be a well-loved classic in the future?
Ooh.
I had one the other day that I was thinking of that I thought would be a classic one day. Queenie by Candy Carty-Williams, I genuinely think will be seen as like a book of its time, because it's been read by so many people now, and I think it will capture a certain generation, certain themes it looks at. I think are incredible. I think Candy's is brilliant. I think that genuinely, and I think because people have compared it to Bridget Jones a little bit. And I don't agree with that, because I think it's got a lot more depth and darkness to it than Bridget Jones. So that had sprinklings.
Yeah.
But then I always think, because you then compare Bridget Jones to Pride and Prejudice, I just like the idea of that 3 jump.
Yeah. I think maybe something like An Orchestra of Minorities. I thought that was an amazing book, very unusual.
Girl, Woman, Other, I think could potentially be a classic.
Yeah, absolutely. And other things that Bernardine's written as well.
Mr. Loverman is amazing. If you've not read Mr. Loverman, I think that could be a classic.
The Emperor's Babe's great.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to try and do these quickly because I'm aware that we've got dinner in a bit, and I can imagine that Chris will come up. Well, Chris will come and say hello anyway, of course. Charlie Brooke would like to know, how do you think up questions when you interview authors? Now, this is really interesting because Mum's doing her first author interview tomorrow with me on Instagram. And all I'm going to say is I think about it as a reader. Like, what intrigues me about that book? What themes am I interested in? And are there certain ways in which they write that I find interesting? I don't know. It's a weird one. I can't.
Yeah. So I've been. I don't know whether it's making me read the book in a different way. I was trying to work that out because
I think you are slightly more analytical while you're reading a book because you've got that second voice in your head.
Yeah, maybe. And also, of course, I'm used to asking questions. That's kind of what I do for a living, and encourage others to ask questions. So it's sort of second nature for me to be questioning things as I'm reading. But I think I'm probably, I want to read the book more slowly than perhaps I am. I'm a very slow reader anyway. I like to, like I say, I'm a muller. I like to mull over things. And
I think the hardest bit with an interview with an author is not necessarily the reading beforehand and coming up with questions. It's making sure, particularly in a live event, that the author's having a good time, the audience are having a good time, and that's what you're more bothered about. And also, I like to ask questions that some readers would ask, but not so many that it shuts off questions at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a real skill.
It's hard to do.
That's not easy to do.
And also sometimes you'll have someone in the audience, like when I interviewed Eowyn Ivey, who has such a good question that it makes all your previous questions look rubbish. So, and next year, then, hopefully, my mother will be doing her first live interview at an event with an author, which is hopefully going to be Tracy Chevalier. So that'll be exciting. Becca W said, "Do I remember learning to read and what I was able to independently read?" I don't, you know.
No, but you could read before you went to school.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you were reading fluently before you went to school. I remember you sitting reading on your potty.
Oh, there's an image that nobody needs for the rest of their Saturday night. I'm terribly sorry. Right, quickly. Question for Mum. What advice would you give to parents with older children to encourage them to read?
It's really difficult. It's finding something that they are genuinely interested in. It doesn't have to be novels. There's a lot of non-fiction out there. There's lots of... I'm always trying to encourage young people to read newspapers, not necessarily physical newspapers, but reading online, because... You know, if they've got a hobby, it doesn't matter what it is, it could be gaming or anything, there's bound to be news articles about, or sport or whatever. So that would be, you know, hook them in by, and not over pressurizing them to read. It's a really fine line. It's tricky. You know, maybe they might see a film that really grabs their imagination. Is there a book with a film? Is there a sequel? Is there? But it's difficult. It's, you know, doing the job I do, it's hard. It's hard. Not always as easy as it should be to get kids hooked on reading. Well,
Tracy Owen has asked a question that links into that, because a question for my lovely mum is, do you remember the very first book you read to me?
I think it would have probably been Meg and Mog, or The Cat in the Hat.
I love The Cat in the Hat.
Because
I remember you reading me Funny Bones a lot.
Oh yeah.
And Burglar Bill.
Oh, Bogler Bill.
Bogler Bill.
Yeah, no, Burglar Bill, you loved that.
I did love that.
Yeah. So we used to read. I used to read to you all the time, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because it's lovely snuggling up with a child.
And I was very good at knowing if she skipped a page.
Oh, I used to get into so much trouble.
Wasn't
I was in a rush.
Wasn't having it. Now, this is an interesting question. It's something that I'm thinking about at the moment. So thank you for asking it, EVM. Would I consider putting closed captions on my videos? Now, it's something that I've been thinking about, because I obviously want this channel and the community around it to be the most inclusive it can be, and for everyone's. But
I don't know what it means.
So closed captions are when you do a video, it's the words that can appear for people who can't hear what we're saying.
Oh, okay.
Now,
sorry.
I will say YouTube does do it automatically. It can get things wrong, as I probably would if I was typing it up. And I think it's something I need to think about, because if I did do it, which I would like to ideally, because you can get people to do it for you, but I just worry that they'd say that I said something like, this book was a strawberry mousse of poo or something. I don't know. So I don't, you know what I mean? There's that thing where you just, I've got trust issues and control issues around that. But there's that thing where if I did that, I would make a lot less content. And it's that, I think I just need to work out the balancing act. So it's something I definitely want to look at. I think the fact that YouTube does it already and generally gets it wrong, although I have seen some hilarious things. It has introduced me as Simon Cabbage before, more than one time, which brought back some horrible trauma memories for me, because I used to be called Cabbage quite a lot. But no, I'm definitely thinking about it. So thank you, Evie, because I want it to be accessible for everybody. That's the whole point of it. Next up, Alex Jones, not the Alex Jones that used to teach and was my best friend at school. But is there a book or writer the two of you have very different opinions on? I don't think so.
No, I mean, even if they're authors that we don't both like, we can. Ooh, yeah, no, I can't think of anybody that we really wouldn't. Either of us wouldn't give the time of day to. No. Sorry, that's boring.
That is a boring answer. Yeah. Marie Richardson's asked me a lot of questions. She asked, why do you buy multiple copies of the same book? I don't generally. I tend to get sent a proof and a finished copy. And she mentions this because she saw that I'd recently purchased Out, which is also clearly visible on the bookshelves behind me. The publisher sent me that one, the new edition, but I already had the old edition. Do you consider environmental impact? I do. Any publisher that send me things now have to send me them in recyclable goods. Proofs I also recycle if I don't give them away. And she just said, do you give them away? There is a recipient here of quite a lot of books that I've given away. I'm good at giving away books to people. But yeah, and also she says, why buy so many books that you will never get around to reading? I see these shelves, I might pop that light on actually, sorry everyone. I see these shelves as like not being a library of my TBR for the next year. It's kind of a TBR for life, and I'm aware that I'm in a very privileged position where I've got the space to do it. You know, I've always wanted a library. I got one, and somebody else went and got one, so now I've put another one downstairs. Then we have
now there's a really contentious question. That is something that Simon and I really disagree
Gail Hewitt's.
Yeah.
Go on, let me go for it.
So the question is simply bookmark or folded corners. Now, you get very cross with me because I like a book to be lived in. I really like.
Well, no.
I like making notes in books. I like putting post-its in. I will happily fold a corner over. You're not very happy with that.
Well, no, so this is confession time, because I have spoken to some of you about this before. I'm not great, I would admit, in general, but if I've got a proof and I know I've got a finished copy, I go to town, I crack spines, I fold notes over. Like if you see my copy of The Mission House in proof, there's loads of folded corners. It's where I think certain things.
Maybe that's why you have two copies.
Maybe. Well, also because I'm in a lucky position where that's what happens and they get sent. So, yeah, but I do like my shelves that are on my books are on my shelves to be pristine. There's one exception. I have a really battered secondhand copy of Donna Tartt's The Secret History that I just love beyond reason. I don't know why. And the same with I've got books that I've inherited either from Gran or my Uncle Derek, and they're not pristine at all. Including a very nice edition, a first edition of In Cold Blood.
Oh yeah,
that was on Grand shelves. We've already answered the question about which book and also you may strongly disagree on. It's not really, we don't. So this is a good one. Lindsay Hill would like to know, she's interested in reading some of the Greek classics. Where should she start? So not non-fiction like Tom was saying, but like the plays or
the plays are brilliant in that they, if you like mythology, they retell the classical myths, and very often you'll get 2 or 3 plays that retell versions of the same myth, because the ancient Greeks weren't precious about their versions. There wasn't really a set version. They could be quite fluid. But I would go to Ovid, not Greek, Roman. But again, he in the Metamorphoses, he He tells mythological stories. He starts with sort of the beginning of the world and then works his way through, and each story flows into another one. So all the sort of key cycles of stories are in that. So I would highly recommend that as a starting point. It depends what you're looking for, but yeah.
And then the final question here, so if you've got questions, get them rolling on there, was also actually about why you chose classics as a career. And she says she loves seeing the two of you interacting. You see so close and warm.
Aww.
Which is lovely. But these videos
warm.
that I'm doing with my mum is just really, really, they've just been so much fun to do.
We love it, don't
and also
we?
like we're always going to have that, which I think is really nice, and it's something that we look forward to. And I don't know what's going to happen after the Women's Prize finishes this year. Well, actually, if it falls into April next year, we'll be back straight on it.
Yeah, we will almost straight away.
We'll have nothing in between.
I think it's because we've always done this on the phone, haven't we? For years, we'll phone each other and mainly talk about books, not how's your husband or
or even how the other one is.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello, what are you reading? Bye.
So actually to be able to do it in person, and the fact that we do sort of now also arrange to see each other to do this, because it gives us the luxury of catching up on, it's great, isn't it?
It's really nice. And like we'll turn it into sort of like a whole weekend, because we don't just sit and record for hours and hours and hours. But like, so Mum came here yesterday, she's leaving on Monday, so we've got like
that's what he thinks.
But no, it's also just like, and also I think it's been even nicer since you started to sort of get what I did a bit more.
Yeah, maybe.
And like taking you to events or that's all been really fun for me, because getting to get Mum to meet authors that she loves, even though she doesn't quite realise who they are at the time, potentially.
I never know what they look like, so he'll introduce me
nice.
to an author by their first name, and I won't have a clue.
But
it's lovely.
Wanton Ruminating, great name for a channel. It says, would Mrs. Savage consider trying to teach Shakespeare plays online?
Possibly.
You love Shakespeare, I know.
I do.
That's maybe an author that we have a different agreement on. And Dickens, I don't like.
Possibly, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it.
Well, it's an option. There we are. It's out there. Graham Solicitor would like to know if you could meet any characters from any book, who would it be and why? Mrs. Danvers for me. That's my sort of just my standalone. I find her so. If I was ever going to write a novel, if I could get the okay from the Du Maurier estate, I would love to write Mrs. Danvers' life story.
Would you?
Danvers by Simon Savage. Oh, it's got a ring.
That's got a ring.
Any publishers watching?
Who would I like to meet? It's really hard. Do you know, I would love to meet, and I can't remember the...
Anne of Green Gables?
No, I was going to say the butler in Remains of the Day.
Oh, I've never read that.
It's one of my favourite novels.
Oh, really? Do you know what? I don't think you've ever told me your top 10 novels of all time.
Oh, well, there
when
you
I'm
go.
next at yours, that's a video we'll do. Mum's
but
top
again,
books.
It will change from month to month.
Don't you try.
There's too many. But anyway, I love Remains of the Day. It's a beautiful book.
You could have 10. We have decided that one thing that we're going to do after we've read all of the Women's Prize winners and talked about them, and then know what the next one is, we're going to do a video of like our top 5 or so, aren't we? Which I think will be really, really nice. So we have, Fuzzy Muck says she buys multiple copies of books. Thank you. I've also got multiple copies of like Rebecca. There's lots of different editions. I like to collect those. So Heather Kirkland said, do you think Hamnet will win a prize? Love the book so much. Well, this is a video I'm kind of dreading as recording, because we've got to do our Women's Prize shortlist and winner prediction, which is where we do the books in order of our preference.
And neither of us knows. I don't know what Simon's order of preference is.
I don't know.
And he doesn't know mine. And I think this year particularly we're going to find it really hard.
I think I'm going to find it hard with 3 books.
Yeah.
3 books I will find it very, very tricky with. So next, if you had to choose a language to learn based on abundance of literature you would then be able to read, which one would it be? That's a really hard question.
I know the answer to that question.
Is yours going to be Latin because it feeds into everything?
No, because I can read Latin.
Oh, I'm so terribly sorry, Louise.
Badly, I have to say nowadays, because I'm very rusty. But anyway, I would love to learn Arabic.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'd really like to learn Arabic and be able to read things like 1001 Nights, but also other, literature from that. Because, sorry.
Spanish or Italian can be good because you can sort of leap. I know that from
Yeah.
my ex-husband, because he
Yeah,
could speak
yeah.
Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian, and
Yeah.
actually it was quite easy to leap, and English, and it was quite easy to leap through different languages. So that was something I'd like to do. Jim would like to know any book adapted into a movie or series that you loved as much or more than the book. Rebecca by Alfred Hitchcock is amazing, absolutely incredible.
I love Jane Austen, but I don't like Sense and Sensibility. I think it's a really weak. I think the final 100 pages are okay, but the rest of it I could happily dump. And I thought the film version of that was really good. I thought it was better than the book, and that doesn't happen very often.
Oh, who knew?
There you go.
I'm going through the questions now. Maybe the Women's Prize can pull a man booker and let 3 books win. Oh, I don't think so. I don't think any prizes should be allowed to
You'd
let
be
more
so
than one.
cross if that happened.
I was cross.
Simon was incandescent
about the booker.
Yes,
I was furious, and
so
I really,
angry.
really liked Margaret Atwood's writing, but I've never been that angry before because I just. And what was funny was I've told you about this when it was on the BBC because I watched it afterwards. It was just like people just went, "Oh," but when you were in the room, it was like. So, it was just a little bit. Andrew Russell says, "God damn it, how much have I missed? You've missed both your questions, but this will stay on my channel after we've finished." Flora Bar Humbug, this is a great question. Is there an author whose books you initially hated but now you love, and vice versa? I vice versa, not hate it. I don't ever hate anything. That's quite a strong word. But there are certain authors I was talking about with you, about Ali Smith, that I think since their book For The, I found I like her books a lot still, but they're not there but for the. I think Ian McEwan, I used to love. I haven't read one of his books for ages. No,
that's interesting, isn't it? Actually, I haven't read any of his books.
But I don't hate his books. I just haven't read any for a long time. Any that I hate to get started. I will always say that I'd give an author 2 chances. It's 2 strikes and you're out.
Yeah. I can't think of anyone that I've gone off.
No. Well, you didn't like The Song of Achilles, but you liked Circe.
That's true. Yeah, but I think that's more to do with the myths they come from.
Oh, that's interesting.
Rather than the actual.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I really, really like that.
Yeah, that is a very good question.
And I'll keep thinking about it because I'm sure there are some authors I've got on my shelves where I'm like, oh, I didn't. But also, I think there are certain authors where one of their books is so much to my heart that any other book they write is never going to quite be, and that's fine because I don't expect every author to please me every single time.
There are also authors that write in different incarnations, aren't there? Like Amanda Scott's Boudica series, I think is brilliant. I love that. I felt that I had lived, breathed, and eaten that era.
Really?
In fact, that's a good historical fiction because she really thinks she's thought so hard about what it would be like to have the mindset of somebody in that. It's like time travel, isn't it? When you read a really good piece of historical fiction, you feel like you've traveled in time, and that's how I felt. And she also writes a series under the name MC Scott about a Roman soldier, and the Boudica ones were so good. I like the other ones, the MC Scott, the Roman ones, but they're not as utterly brilliant as the Boudica novels.
Yeah. No,
have you read that?
No.
Oh.
I haven't read any of her books, actually. Gail Hewitt, speaking of historical fiction, does your mum have a favourite in the Davy Historical Fiction Award you're judging? I don't think she will have in the long list. I think I've told you about the long list.
Not much, have you? I know I've obviously seen it on social media, but I can't remember what's on there. So
there's quite a few. But also, I wouldn't want mum to comment on that when I'm still judging.
You're very good like that. You completely,
just go,
yeah.
And it's quite odd because I don't know. It's strange, but I would like to start a campaign to get my mum judging the Women's Prize at some point. So let's all get that happening.
Well, that's just a fantasy.
You never know, you know. Anyway, there's that. Ruby Hamner wants to know, why didn't your mum like the Song of Achilles?
Well, we're going to be talking about that.
Oh yeah, we are. Sorry, so I can't say.
Video, so yeah. I'm not going to answer that now.
Teasers. Look at us. What absolute cheeky chops. Katie Campbell, did you ever have any anxiety about not being able to read all the books that need reading? How do you manage this? I have made peace. There are some books I will never read. Moby Dick, never going to read it. Not bothered. Ulysses, not bothered. So I don't know. I just think that thing of, one of the reasons that I have this is this, to me, all of this is like hope for the future.
Yeah.
But also, you never know how long you're going to have.
No, you don't.
So you can't
And
map out how many books you'd read a year and therefore get a
No,
certain. But
no.
it does make me feel quite tense when I think I might die during a book that I was loving, and then I'll never know the end.
You're bound to die during a book, though. You and I both are.
But
We're bound to
also-
be in the middle of something.
But the other thing that upsets me a bit is like when like Rose Tremaine has a new book out or Kate Atkins has a book, Gran can't read them, and that really plays with my head.
Yeah, no, I get
Because
that.
I'll be thinking like there are certain books, and what's lovely is there's certain books. So I can't remember which one it was. I think it was The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing, and Gran used to leave annotations in her books. And I pulled it off the shelf, opened it. This is the most awful book I've ever read in my life. And that sort of thing where I feel like you're there for having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah,
That's quite weird.
Yeah.
But I try not to think about it, if I'm honest.
Well, I think the problem with that is that it's a very sort of sobering, thinking about the number of books left to read in your life is very much thinking about your own mortality, isn't it? So, yeah.
But here's that thought of like, I'd be like, oh, what if I'm midway through and I didn't know what happened at the end? I'd be really cross. Well, that's true. Actually, this is a great question from Read by Cat. How do you force yourself to read a book for a prize or work? One, I'll be very frank about it. It's a paid gig, so it's a job, and it pays my mortgage. So you just do it. Two, I now don't do any events with any authors who I don't think I would want to interview or wouldn't enjoy their books. I'm really, really, really strict on that one. And also with prizes, what's quite nice now is when they approach me, it's like, do I really like what the ethos of that prize is? Like, I love historical fiction, so reading loads of debut historical fiction. Overall, there was some times, but overall was great. Costa I love doing because I was with the most amazing judges. Same with the Portico Prize, and that was celebrating the North, and I love the North. One that I would love to judge, I've only just recently felt like this, would be the Booker International. Because I don't read enough books from around the world. I very much stick to books that are just, authors that I know or what's going on in other prizes. So quite a lot of the time translated works don't count in prizes. So that would be something that I would like to do. I'm just putting that out there. I'd like to Booker International, thanks very much. Although they have to read 163 books or something like that.
Wow.
And I think with the Booker you have to read them cover to cover, whereas other prizes it's like you as a reader judge
it's a bit
how you get on.
I mean, go for halfway through.
Well, yeah, exactly. What book would we not mind dying in the middle of? Jacqueline, that's an amazing question.
Well, I would want it to be something I was really, really enjoying.
That's brilliant.
I wouldn't mind
that.
dying in the middle of reading Alan Coren's.
Please don't say this.
Whatever, because he makes me laugh.
Or please don't ever pick another one of his books up. Thank you very much.
That's such a good question.
Cheryl Holzenbeck says, just wanted to say I have a Goodreads shelf named Simon and Louise Recommend with all of the books that we recommend and love.
Oh,
so she reads through them. That's really, really
so
lovely.
Nice.
Alice Smalldesk, have you ever given feedback on someone's work in progress? No, I'm not an editor. I'm just a reader. And I kind of think that's the way it's best.
I do it professionally.
Yeah, you do it obviously with
all the
coursework
time,
and kids and that. But for
and
me,
it's phenomenal what kids produce. It's amazing.
Yeah, but
it's
no,
really
I've never. Actually, that's not true. The only time I've done it is my friend Catherine Hall, who wrote The Preview of Love, which I absolutely loved. I did go through because she was like, as a friend and as someone who loved that book, with her next book, she asked me to go through it, and she appreciated how frank and direct I was.
Did she really?
No, she did. She sent me a message. But also, what was spooky was she, her editor said almost exactly the same things that I said. Okay. And I have thought about, would I like to be an editor? I can tell you though that I have been edited out of a book. Because
is that for bad behaviour?
No, my lovely friend Kerry Hudson, who wrote Lowborn, which I absolutely loved, she is the one who gave me the nickname Sugar Bear, which is why I've got my Sugar Bear tattoo. And she basically had written this character, and her agent, and me and her agent had put this to bed. I bring it up all the time. Was like, that's so obviously Simon, take it out.
Oh.
So I was out, but I have been a character in a book as well. Simon Savage has been in a book.
Yes,
so
yes.
Yeah, that's been quite nice. Katie Books, Buongiorno. This is Kieran, who I read with the old MacDonald in the background when we were reading summer. You're on death row. Honestly, what's wrong with people? What books would we like to die in the middle of? You have your last meal, you get a starter, a main, dessert. What do you have? I think that's what we were talking about, our favourite meals.
Yeah.
So mine would be Well, I've changed mine now. Prawn
Oh,
cocktail,
flippin' it.
followed by chicken Kiev and dauphinoise potatoes.
You've nicked my chicken Kiev.
I'm sorry.
You're not having
And
my
also,
chicken Kiev.
this is hilarious. So Kieran and I have talked about how you cook chicken Kiev before. Because his wife was frying them. And I was like, no, they're oven. Get them in the oven.
Well, they've been frozen, yeah. But they have to be fried before.
No, but either way, even if they've not been frozen, I put them in the oven. Anyway, this is all turned into chaos. So what I would say is prawn cocktail followed by chicken Kievs and dauphinoise potatoes with cream spinach or cream leeks or cream cabbage. Love that. And then I would finish with lemon meringue pie with a side of butterscotch Angel Delight.
Well, I haven't changed my mind.
Well, Kieran might have missed that though. So what were they?
So it was caprese salad followed
Thingy
by
salad.
thingy salad, followed by chicken Kiev, followed by lemon meringue pie, or
So
anything lemony, cheesecake.
Emma Booth would like to know: have either of you read Ducks Newburyport?
No.
No. It's a very simple one. Was that up for the book room? It was the women's prize, and we just didn't read it.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was up for the women's
No,
prize.
it was because I remember getting really cross if it was going to be on the shortlist.
No.
I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was.
No, it wasn't on the long list.
It was on the long list, but it didn't go onto the short list.
I don't remember.
I think it was the first year we did it, and so you went reading all of them.
Yeah, okay.
Because that was only really, this is only our second,
Yeah.
This is our first year of doing it properly.
Yeah.
And I just refused, although I really love, because as many of you know, like I love the term "hey up me ducks," and I use it for my Patreons. And I also had a pet duck called Rapunzel. She was my very first pet, and she was amazing. But I love the Australian American cover, which is a duck upside down dipping into the water. I just love that, but no, I haven't read it. And I've heard it makes you want to bake quite a lot. Suzanne says Ducks was shortlisted for the book. I think it was also longlisted for the women's. I'm pretty much almost 100% sure. What are your thoughts on prizes? Actually, that was, I think, a question that we had that I might have skipped accidentally. I feel like it's in my brain.
My thoughts on
like,
prizes?
Which prizes do you really like outside the women's prize? Are there other prizes that you particularly look at? Like, are you bothered about the Man Booker at the moment, or?
I don't tend to. I didn't used to be particularly keen on the winners of the Booker. Years ago, I sort of had a phase of. There was a spate of years where, when I first took an interest, where the books that won I wasn't a particular fan of. I think that would be different now. I thought the shortlist this year looked brilliant. So no, I'm not a massive. Thing is now the women's prize sort of dominates but
we genuinely love it.
But I also feel that I mean there are a lot of important prizes out there, but I do really feel the women's prize is one that has genuinely changed the culture in publishing. I think it's had a huge impact in terms of promoting women's voices and promoting quality fiction. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. We've now read. I've now finished all 25 of the previous winners. 24. And
well, no, because you haven't technically read the 25th. So you're right.
Yeah, that's true. That there isn't a dud book in there. There are books that aren't particularly my cup of tea, but they are all brilliant works of art.
Yeah, and I should say, because I don't think we ever said this, but we don't get paid or sponsored or anything by the Women's Prize. They very kindly send my mum the books and me any that I really don't have. And we were going to get to go to the party this year, but we haven't. We got to go last year. So, but like we genuinely just decided to do that project because we both really love it. I can't even remember when we had that conversation.
No, I can't.
But it just sort of.
But one of the things
happened.
I love about you is you do really promote women's fiction, and I think that's wonderful.
I just love it. I love it more. It's interesting. We've been talking at work a lot recently about the books that we really love and stuff, and it's interesting because somebody's going, do you read a lot of LGBTQ literature? And I was like, no, because I think as part of the community, I'm not saying I've had the same experience as everybody else, but I'm much more interested in other people's voices. And I think women's fiction, I genuinely think, and this is going to be a huge sweeping statement, because authors like Robbie Arno I absolutely love, Benjamin Myers I absolutely love, but overall I think women are better writers than men. I think they are better at putting themselves in other people's perspectives.
I wouldn't agree with that particularly. I just think
this is the fight you were all hoping for.
I look forward to a world where these things just don't matter. It's just about whether somebody is a good writer and whether they resonate with you. And I'm
not saying that I would penalise a book written by a man, but I just think overall in my reading experience so far, the books that have chimed with me have been predominantly written by women over men. But like I said, Robiano, I just think he's one of my absolute favourite authors. He's just written his second novel's just come out, and he's a genius. So yeah, I shall find some more questions quickly, because dinner will be ready soon, I think. Have you always been Gail Hewitt wants to know, have you always been a fast reader or something you learned how to do?
I'm not a fast reader.
Fast reader.
I just read an awful lot, and I do ridiculous things like set my alarm at 5 o'clock in the morning so I can read for an hour before I go to work, which I think for me it's tied up with keeping myself grounded. It's a way of relaxing and learning about the world. I've forgotten what the question was now.
Why are you a fast or how?
Yeah, so I'm not a fast reader.
I am
just
a fast reader,
voracious reader.
But I also, like you, I will dedicate time to reading, and partly that's because when it's my job, I have to dedicate time. But I think doing that means that when I've got those pockets that are free, one thing I will say is though, I think none of us ever feel like we read enough. Like I still have moments where I think, why am I not reading at a bus stop? Why am I not reading at da-da-da? And I think that's always, and also I know throughout the pandemic, I was getting quite frustrated how little I was reading. I mean, I was judging a prize, so that's quite intense. Reading is different. But outside of that, I was getting really cross that like we've been in the pandemic and I hadn't read 7,000 books.
Yeah, the weather was very good at the start as well, which means I want to be out in the garden and gardening and pottering. And there's a conflict of interest there.
There is. Kieran and Ken would like to know which book we would like to see on the syllabus. Which books would you want taught in school if we could make the changes?
That list would be endless, because it frustrates me that it's such a narrow canon of texts that exist on GCSE and A-level, particularly GCSE reading lists, especially since we're not allowed to teach any American literature at GCSE anymore. I find that really, really frustrating, and I work really hard to try and introduce the kids to as wide a range of texts as possible and not be too driven by the syllabus.
Yeah, I don't know now what I would want to be taught at school, because I think it feels like you're not taught one book, you're taught lots of bits of books. Does that make sense? And in fact, maybe that's what I would prefer if you were.
There's so much research now. We're things are swinging back to actually really valuing reading. Just sharing a whole book with a class of children actually is, I think, incredibly important and something that hasn't particularly been valued in more recent years. But I think happily things are perhaps turning the other way.
Yeah. And two final questions. Michaela, who do you think will win this year's Women's Prize? You'll have to wait and see our prediction video, which will come out on Tuesday the 8th of September is when I'm going to schedule that one. Luke F wants to know, can we have a jumper wardrobe tour soon, as my jumper game has been incredible lately. I'm sure you can at some point. I would happily do that. Jacqueline wants to know, if you could start a book prize, which area of publishing would you like the award in? I used to actually run a book prize. It was called the Green Carnation Prize, and it was for LGBTQIA+ writing of fiction, non-fiction, poetry, the whole shebang. One thing I do think, like, if I could tweak the Women's Prize a tiny bit, I think I would like them to include short stories. And possibly poetry.
I would like to see more prizes. I know there are prizes out there that are judged by young people, but I would like to see young people involved in judging adult fiction. That's something that I'd really like to happen.
Almost on time. Chris has come to have. Becca says, why no American literature? So no To Kill a Mockingbird. No, To Kill a Mockingbird is amazing. It's a great book.
The reforms that happened 5 years ago.
This is the government.
Yeah, this is in the British the English education system.
Look at that. Chris has come to say hello. People are saying, hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey Chris. Oh, it all starts
How's
now.
it going?
The Chris Brigade. Suddenly, look at this. Everyone's going
Oh,
bonkers.
so nice though.
Oh, look
They
at
should
him.
be.
And he's so modest
He's a
about
star.
it. Oh, here we go. Everyone likes Chris more than Simon. I hear it all the time, even from my
He
own
has
family
been the
members.
chef.
I've been
Somebody's
cooking,
asking.
Gail.
He's been busy cooking.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Kieran of KD Books,
Uh-huh.
who I told you about because when I was doing the voicemail with him, I was hearing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. We had a conversation about Kievs. And me and Mum had a-
Yeah.
What's the
Kiev.
best
How'd
way
you
to
cook
cook
Kiev?
a chicken Kiev?
What do you mean when you make it yourself?
Yeah.
No, when you buy one already
Oh, I
made.
thought. Oh, okay. I
I
thought.
think I'd never make a Kiev myself.
But if you make it yourself,
Oh,
the
that's
trick
what
is to
butter is.
freeze the butter so it's at a much lower
Ooh.
temperature to the chicken, and then it melts slower and doesn't run out the chicken. And you make a pocket in the top of the chicken, not at the side, and then the butter won't flow out.
Oh, yeah.
But would you, if you had one that was defrosted, ready, would you grill it or would you oven it?
Oh, oven.
There we go.
Mm.
That's the answer. So there we are. So Chris is here, and people would like to know what's for dinner.
We are having.
Or tell say we did
I'd
last
like
night.
to know what's for dinner.
Say we did last night.
We
Ooh.
had a vegetable tagine, and we did roast lamb with lemon and rosemary and
Delicious.
garlic, and we had flatbreads and
Falafel,
Yeah.
and
halloumi.
tzatziki, and
Yeah.
it was kind of a.
There was meant to be buckwheat, but Chris left it in the microwave.
You
What
might
else?
have
Oh,
had
and then
some white wine.
There was a lot. Of wine.
there was quite a lot of wine, not from me. There was quite a lot of wine from other people. And also then for pudding, you did apricots, which Chris leaves in
Oh,
amaretto.
they were gorgeous.
So yeah.
Mm.
And then tonight we're having
Tonight we're having chicken wrapped in parma ham and baked in the oven with parmentier potatoes and peppers stuffed with bulgur wheat, feta, and breadcrumb.
what's the pudding? Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No one ever remembered.
Uh-oh.
There's two puddings, meringues and fruit, and apple tart with custard.
So there we go. That's what we're having. Which means we should really go. But actually, one final question Jacqueline would like to know. Chris, what's your favourite book?
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite book? What is it?
Goats and Sheep, Joanna Cannon.
Oh, that's nice. So yeah. And actually we both ended up being in a Joanna Cannon book. We did. 3 Things About Elsie. Anyway.
Horrible character.
Simon was the redemption in the novel, which I appreciated. So
How
that's
well
all
does she
we'll
know you
say.
guys?
That's all we'll say. But thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah.
Now go off and enjoy Lauren's cozy reading night. Fabiola Crows would like to know, would you please consider starting your own foodie YouTube channel? I have asked him so many
He
times,
shouldn't
it's
he?
boring. It's like I literally can't stop asking him to
There's
do it.
only room for one YouTube sensation in this house.
That's not the note I wanted to leave it on, but let's. Well, and also my mum's here. She's a
Okay.
sensation.
Two
Quite old, I'm not.
YouTube-
So we'll have 3. It's fine. Anyway, but thank you all for joining us. Sorry if we missed any of your questions, but me and Mum will be back with our videos in the coming weeks. I think one of
Right.
ours will go live either on Thursday or Sunday, and I'll be back tomorrow with a pre-recorded video, which is me and Melanie's latest book club, which is all about Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams.
That'll
So
be good.
I'll see you then. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, do we want to end it? We do want to end it. Bye, everyone. Thank you for all your lovely comments, by the way. Bye.
Bye.